Good afternoon, folks. How are we doing today? Thank you for joining me. So, if you've not been to one of these before, this is our regular Wednesday lunch chat with games, where I play generally some sort of puzzle or casual or board game over lunch and just chat while we're doing it. We've been to an awful lot of board games recently, but the last couple of weeks I've been trying games very kindly provided through the website Keymailer. So this is generally where indie developers, for the most part, are still developing their games. Maybe it's in a beta stage, and they want people to play it and share their thoughts and obviously produce content. So let's say from the outset on this one, we're going to be playing Land of Mushrooms today, which is very kindly been provided by SourceBite. I believe it comes out in literally just a couple of days. I think it may even come out on the 31st. So I was provided with a key for this. I'm not required to say anything good, bad, or ugly about it. Or my only requirement is I said that yes, I would be doing a YouTube video on this, which obviously this is going out on Twitch and YouTube right now, and the VOD will be available afterwards. So that's me saying this at the get-go. This is not promoted, just that I have been provided with the key for this free of charge. And my only agreement was that I produce a video on it, which I'm doing as we speak. So, shall we have a go at this? Let's see how this works. So this is like a cozy, casual game involving mushrooms. My understanding it's essentially a dropping mushrooms and combining them into larger mushrooms. And we will see how we get on with this. Your face is not being promoted. Oh, dear me. Morning, adjacent DC. No, thank you, old man Odd. I appreciate it. No, my face probably shouldn't be promoted. I'll be honest. But there we go. Right. No, thank you for joining me. I do appreciate it. Right. Let's dive into this. So we'll hop over to this, and we will check the controls. I did briefly check that this worked. Right. Profile 1. Let's go to settings. So A and D or left and right, and space and skip is left shift. Okie doke. Let's have a crack at this. New game. Okay. Oh, so they're going to drop regardless. This is a timer for each one. So, so I presumably want to combine the little red guys into big guys. Okay. So I've seen a couple of games of this sort. And inevitably it gets kind of busy very quickly. I mean, I'm surprised how big some of the mushrooms get already. I was expecting the little red guys to become like a white guy, maybe just slightly bigger than it, but no, some of these are gigantic already. And presumably, what do we think the failure is? I mean, do we think it literally touches the top of the cup, or if they fall out of the cup? I guess we'll find out. Oh crap! It's just so huge. Hello, Photostyle. How are we doing? We are playing Land of Mushrooms, a pre-release copy of this. It's a cozy, casual game of mushrooms of varying sizes. That's the bit that's catching me out, is the fact that, you know, normally with a game like this, the things you are dropping will... Oh, what the heck did that do? They are of a sort of predictable size. They start off very small, and maybe the second level one is like 1.5 times the size of it, or twice the size of it. And then, you know, it scales up in a slightly obvious progression. But here, the mushrooms are very, very size, which is making this quite hard. Okay, okay, so I think the failure is if it falls out of the cup. That's what I'm thinking on this one. Because I'm in trouble now. Oh, no, I missed. Oh, crap, I missed. Okay, so that becomes that. That becomes that. That's going to become huge. Okay, this is slight. Oh, no. There we go. There we go. My final score is 5,388, and it is raining mushrooms. Ooh, someone called Firebound Foxes. How many people are playing this? I'm just kind of curious. Okay, so I've not done the worst on that, but I've got a way to go on this one. Let's have another crack at this. And the progression is at the bottom. Oh, and it does tell me on the right there what's coming up. I should probably be looking at that, because that is very, very useful. He says, immediately ignoring it. No, fall down there. Right, okay, I want that over there. These can... They bounce a lot. It is very bouncy. Which kind of catches you off guard. Also, the time you get to make your decisions is not long. This really quickly becomes quite hard. Which is unusual for this. Normally, you know, you get lured into a false sense of security, and then it becomes hard. But here, it's like, oh, good grief, it's really quite hard from the outset. Yeah, the balancing nature of this is quite challenging. Okay. Oh dear God. Right. What have I even got here? I can't even see. Oh no, messed it up already. How? I mean, that was shockingly bad. But it freaks me out how quickly some of these become gigantic. Like that. The third guy, the kind of purplish looking or kind of burgundy mushroom, is gigantic. It really is. I want that over there, and I'm not going to do it. Oh, yeah. Also, they are... You kind of expect them to be slightly heavier than they are, maybe. I'm not sure. There's something about the physics that is not 100% intuitive, and I don't know if that's just my brain making assumptions. Not, but... It's good. It's fun. It's just hard. Really hard. The graphics are nice. But the one thing I would say about the graphics, which I've only just noticed, it is slightly odd that what the heck is this, a bomb? Okay. The one thing slightly odd about the graphics is if you look at the mushrooms that I'm dropping in, they all have like a thick black border around them. Whereas everything else in this world doesn't. It's just the colour itself without any border. So that is, I'm not quite saying it jars, but it's an unusual choice, and I'm kind of curious why they made that choice. But I'm enjoying this. This is nice. Less, I was going to say less stressful. This becomes quite hard quite quickly, but because I generally play board games on these streams, and more often than not recently it's been board games that I'm not already familiar with. I'm normally having to do an awful lot of thinking on these streams, whereas this is it's nice that it is relatively straightforward. I mean, not easy, but it's not confusing. Okay, that one down there. I wonder why they made the choice of some of these mushrooms. I mean, I think they've got to be based on actual mushrooms, given the slight oddities of the shapes of them. Especially the guy in the bottom left, who looks like a kind of nuclear explosion. That's a choice. Yeah. Actually, you open the orange one to that guy, and it definitely shrinks in size, which is surprising for a game like this. You'd expect the size always to keep increasing. But not so much on this one. Where's this one going to go? Oh, that's tricky. Oh, there we go. Oh, wow, everything just happened. Everything just happened. Yeah, the timer is really short on this. Really short. Which is a little stressful. You really don't get a lot of time to think about what you're doing. which is kind of to be expected, isn't it? Oh, well done, old man Odd, for knowing your mushrooms. I am impressed. Is it just a culinary background? Is it I forget what the word is for someone who studies mushrooms. Or are you just an arch poisoner of some sort, so you know? Interest in foraging. Very nice. There's always something always fascinating about that, though I have to say the... what's the name of the film? Is it Into the Wild? I can never remember the name of them. One of them is the Reese Witherspoon one, about doing the Appalachian Trail. And the other one is about the guy who ends up eating mushrooms and dying in the woods. I can't remember which one's which. But no, there's always something... There's something fascinating about mushrooms, but also terrifying about how poisonous some of them are. And then the new fear unlocked, of course, from The Last of Us, that they could just, cause some sort of apocalypse. That is a new fear unlocked related to that. Mushrooms are odd. There's no getting around that. But I love the designs. They're very cute. They're incredibly cute. Oh, I messed that up impressively. So, oh no, this is going badly now. Oh, big things are happening. There we go. There. And that's the giant one. I need to get those two to touch somehow. That's not going to be terribly easy. Oh, everything's happening. Mushroom-related chaos. Oh, this could mess me up. Oh, no, that went all right. That went okay. We're doing all... Don't say it, Dave. Don't say it. Mushrooms invented dirt. I can't look at the chat. Oldest and largest living organisms on Earth. I mean, I can certainly believe that. The thing that's always kind of fascinating is the fact that they are a category in and of themselves. I dimly remember learning that at school for the first time. It's one of those things that, from a childlike perspective, it's part of your brain goes, well, everything's kind of like, if it's not, it's your vegetables are vegetables. So that includes, things like kind of peas and stuff like that, and potatoes, and mushrooms. And then you very quickly learn that is complete rubbish. Oh no! Ah! Largest known mycelium, it's 20 miles across. Fungi are more closely related to animals than plants on the evolutionary timescale. I can absolutely believe that. I've taken the lead. I have taken the lead for the daily high score. How am I doing in general? Third, not half bad. On monthly one, I'm still not doing terribly, I'm not going to lie. This is nice. Let's have another crack at this one. Not bad for a third attempt. Thank you. I mean, I like the fact we're glossing over the fact that the second attempt was just horrendously bad. I appreciate that. But no, this is nice. This is... I mean, it says I think it's been released on quite a lot of different things. It's got kind of the feel of a mobile game, and I'm not saying that in a terrible way. I'm not knocking it, but it's the sort of game you would kind of entertain yourself with on when traveling or something, or on the toilet or something like that. It is it's just a quick, easy, casual game, but it's quite nice playing it on Steam for a richer experience graphically. Quite nice. So that's going to go there. That combines with that guy, and they're so close to touching. What can I do to knock them? Almost so close. So close. What? They're touching. Those are touching. There we go. Yeah, that's all right. That's good. Oh, very bouncy. slightly bouncy. Yeah, it's an odd choice that they are, some of them just disproportionately large compared to the ones either side of them. And it must have been an active choice. You wouldn't accidentally do that. I wonder what the logic is behind when you get bonuses. I'm only able to keep half an eye on the right hand side, so I don't know if these are always planned that these bonuses are coming up, or if it's something I'm doing that makes them into a bonus. Yeah, mobile game, but not in a derogatory sense, just meaning simple to pick up 100%. It is in a world where there are increasingly complex games, either due to plot or due to skill level. It is nice to have games that are incredibly simple to pick up and very simple to re-pick up, which I think is a critical thing that people don't talk about enough. You know, there are plenty of times where I have been playing like an open world RPG or something. I mean, something like Witcher 3, which I've only played entirely through once, but I've done partial plays of it several times. And I've gone, let's pick up Witcher 3 again, and maybe I'll continue where I left off. And you go into it and you go, I have no clue what I'm doing. I mean, one, I've probably forgotten the controls a bit, but also, you know, where am I going? Why am I doing it? Yeah, the journal will tell you some stuff, but it doesn't get you really kind of up to speed. I've seen loads of people mention it would be lovely for games like that to have a decent reminder of, you know, where you are, what you're doing, and why. I think Witcher does to a degree. It tells you a little bit about where you are in the overall plot, but still, that is maybe a little too high level. There's some games which are, I think, very harsh in terms of the skill level required. I mean, one that leaps out to me, and I think it's such a shame, is Rainbow Six Siege, which I played for a little while a few years ago. I'm a big fan of the Rainbow Six games, and I have to say I was disappointed originally, and I think I still am to a degree. I'm not going to lie, I'm still slightly bitter about it, that they decided to go down the multiplayer route. Exclusively the multiplayer route, because actually the single player and co-op campaigns on previous Rainbow Six games were great. And I totally love the concept of Rainbow Six Siege, the fact that as a team you are trying to attack or defend a base. The problem is, it's very hard to start playing that game because the people who do play it are so good at it that you just get absolutely annihilated immediately. You know, the second you make the slightest mistake, you're dead. Oh no, I messed it up. And there we go. The timing of me saying you make the slightest mistake and you're dead, and then I immediately messed up my mushroom game. There we go. And I think that's a shame. I think, I mean, it's good that for the most part, games like Rainbow Six Siege are the way that matchmaking works. It does it based on skill level, so that you will start off with people of your skill level, or in theory, you should always be of your skill level, to be honest. That's what it should be. Let me just read what you said there, because I can't glance down and read that. I'm currently writing a module that will be 5e but system agnostic at the minute, and suppressing the urge to rabbit hole into areas the players will never see. We do not need the detail of the historical rivalry enmity between the lycanthropes and the chirophanthropes. I imagine that creeps in with video game design as well, polishing and complicating a system over and over until where it's daunting. No, 100%. There is a hell of a balancing act in games of all sorts to make sure. I mean, let's take the lore example. Absolutely, that you want to have lore that is accessible, and if people want to deep dive, they can. But it shouldn't be compulsory. It shouldn't be a case of, I just don't get the concept of this game without doing, 9 hours of reading. I was actually talking about this at MCM at the weekend. We did a bit of a pub crawl, and I was we were talking about Dragon Age. So obviously the new Dragon Age comes out. Oh god, it's tomorrow, isn't it? Wow. Oh, that's gonna be difficult. I have so much podcast editing to do. But yeah, I was talking about Dragon Age, and they said, well, you know, what's it like? The lore has always seemed a bit much because they've played Baldur's Gate 3 and they've never played any Dragon Age games. And I said, well, first of all, I don't think you need to play the previous ones. I think you'll appreciate, I mean, certainly if it's anything like previous Dragon Age games, you will appreciate it more if you do get the lore, but and you have played the previous games, but you don't need to have, you know, certainly true. Dragon Age 2, you did not need to have played Dragon Age 1. Dragon Age 3, you didn't need to have played Dragon Age 1 or 2, but it's better if you have. And then we spoke specifically about the lore. You know, what do you need to know about the lore? Because it feels like there's an awful lot of lore for Dragon Age, and I agree. You know, there is a heck of a lot of lore for Dragon Age, especially with supplementary books and comics and all of that build around the fandom and stuff like that. But I think the nice thing about Dragon Age, from that respect, is that actually if you're coming in fresh, you don't need to know it all, which is, you know, a hell of a relief. A lot of the lore is in books that you can read in there, or deeper conversations that you can have with characters, but they're not compulsory to completing the game. Again, very, very useful. And fundamentally with Dragon Age, I think the main thing you need to know, there's only kind of two things you need to know about the lore of Dragon Age, which is one, a bit of the concept about the Blight and Darkspawn. I think it's worth knowing that. I mean, less so in the later games. I think you can pick that up as you go, but I think it is useful to know generally the concept of Blights and Darkspawn. And also the fact that how magic and mages work. I think if you're coming in fresh into Dragon Age and you're not aware of that, I think it's worth knowing, because so many fantasy role-playing games, you know, magic it's just a class. You know, it's just a skill or a class or a thing you can do, and some people can do it and some people can't, and that's fine. But the fact that in Dragon Age, so fundamentally, if you're a mage, that is an absolutely defining part of your character and backstory, and there is no way of getting away from that. You know, that was a huge surprise to me when I actually played. Well, when I played Dragon Age 1 first, holy god, I'm so close to death on this. Is the fact that, look, if you choose to play a mage, that is massive, because if you're a mage, you are either part of the circle of mages and therefore are enrolled in wizard school, which is not fun, or you are an apostate and you are essentially a rebel just by who you are, and that's massive. The fact that you've got one of those two choices if you're a mage in Dragon Age. That's it. Yeah, there's no easy. I cocked that up. There's no easy option with spellcasters in Dragon Age. You are either part of the Circle of Mages, and it's not like a nice little Harry Potter-ish sort of School of Wizards type thing. It is, you know, quite intimidating and quite sinister, or you're on the run. That's it. You know, there is no nice, easy, neutral middle ground where you can go, I just want to be a mage and be left alone. It's like, no. It's one of two unpleasant choices. It's rock and a hard place. So I think it's borderline slavery. 100% it is. It is, and that was a hell of a choice they made with that first Dragon Age game. And it's so fundamental to the plots of certain Dragon Age 2, and yeah, pretty sure it was fundamental to plot Dragon Age 3 as well. Chantry as you under guard constantly. Yep, it's really rough, and I think that was a hell of a choice that BioWare made with the first Dragon Age. They're going, right, we can create our own world, we can create our own rules, and we want people to join and enjoy our new franchise. Going, look, if you want to be a spellcaster, you're going to have to make a really tough choice from the outset. That's a lot. So I'm glad in that sense that the first game, you know, Dragon Age Origin, really did. The fact that they made Origin a big thing, the fact that, you know, you choose a class and some other features, and that will fundamentally determine that starting part of the game for you. Because if they hadn't done that, it would have been very weird. It would have been a case of, oh, this is really important, but actually, in order to make it as generic as possible, we're not really going to talk about it for a bit. I think that would have undermined it. I'd be very curious to know about the design process of that first Dragon Age game, of when they made that decision. Nah. Did the world originate with them? I thought the tabletop RPG came first. Well, for Dragon Age, no, the games came first. Yeah, it was all original stuff. So BioWare obviously made a load of the old Infinity games with Dungeons and Dragons stuff. I can never remember which ones are BioWare and which are Black Isle. But they made Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. And then when they started doing original franchises, they did like Jade Empire and stuff, which is very underrated, and I would quite like to play it again. And then they made their fantasy game, Dragon Age. Then they made their sci-fi game, Mass Effect, and they swung hard into those franchises. They really did. Where they could have made a lot of stuff very generic. I'm very glad that they didn't. They made something really quite unique. I'll tell you one thing I really like in Jade Empire was excellent. It really was, and I said severely underrated. One thing I really like about Mass Effect lore, and this is something that I really came to the forefront of my mind when reading the books, and the books are an interesting story. But I've read like the first, 3 of the Mass Effect books. I read them in uni, which makes me sound like I studied them for a course. No, I just read them. But if you've played the Mass Effect games, you know how shields work. So you've got shields in the game, and if you get hit a lot, your shields go down, and if you get to rest for a little while, your shields come back up, which is fine. They've embraced that in the lore of the books, so that having personal shields is referenced many times, not just in the fact that people have got them, so it's not just a mechanic that doesn't really make sense the second you start doing a narrative, but beyond that, they talk about the fact that essentially assassins and sniper rifles don't quite work the way they would in the real world. They don't clearly phrase it like that, because that would really drag you out of the narrative, but the point is that whereas in the real world, or a lot of fiction, if you had a sniper, say, so you've got someone who's perched up on a hill somewhere or on top of a building, and they're going to shoot the person when they least expect it. One shot, one kill, bam, they're gone. It doesn't work in Mass Effect, because that first shot is going to take out their shields. Then you would need a second shot, minimum, to actually take them out. And that's referenced a few times in there. It's not quite the the slow knife of Dune, but it's nice that they've taken a concept which I could easily believe was created just from a rules mechanic engine perspective for the game. The fact they've embraced it in lore as, no, this is a thing, this was an intentional thing, and it has consequences. I really like that. That was a bold choice. We like bold choices. The books are an interesting journey. Oh god, I've lost. The Mass Effect books are really interesting. I've read the first 3 of them. I know they did a 4th one. They probably did more to tie into Andromeda and stuff like that. But they were a journey. So the first 3 books were written by, I'm going to pronounce his name wrong, and I do apologize, Drew Karpyshyn, who was the lead writer. And they introduced a lot of interesting characters. You get backstory of Captain Anders, and some of those characters from the books actually appear in Mass Effect 2 and 3, mainly 3 actually, and that's brilliant that you get to see those characters coming in. But they were very well written in terms of the use of the lore, and respectful of the canon, because obviously it was written by the lead writer. I do believe he was the lead writer. If he was the lead writer, I will apologise profusely, but I think he was the lead writer. But then when they got to a fourth book was written by someone else, and immediately they started throwing out bits of canon. Mostly to the characters. I've read about this before, but the response was really bad to that fourth book. For example, one of the characters in the previous books is very clearly autistic. It's kind of a fundamental thing. Their character is the fact they are autistic. And then there's just a passing mention in the in that fourth book that essentially, they had some difficulties as a child, but they've got over it. And it's like, what? You don't just kind of get over autism. It doesn't work that way. And there's loads of other stuff in there where they, fundamentally kind of redesigned or changed stuff, and it's okay to, it is okay to be a little fluid with canon from time to time. There are times where actually rigorous devotion to canon can actually impede good storytelling, providing it's done in a slightly seamless way. I mean, sometimes you can look at, I'm going to look at the first thing and the last thing, and they don't quite match up, but there's such a smooth transition between them that you kind of accept it and it's fine. But when you just go, nah, that massive thing about the character or the lore, we're just ignoring that now. And it's laziness. It's absolute laziness. And in the case of this fourth Mass Effect book, to the degree that I think BioWare actually put out that when they print future editions of this book, they will change it. Now, I don't think they ever did, because I think a lot of people responded to that and said, well, that's a great message, but the amount of fundamental rewriting you'd have to do, you may as well just write another book. And I mean, it's been years since I've read about this, but I don't think they ever did it, which is a shame. So I've never picked up that fourth book, which is a shame because 1, 2, and 3 were really quite fun, very, very enjoyable, and I would happily read them again, had I the time. I mean, I wonder if they're on Audible. Maybe I should. If they're on Audible, I might listen to them. That would be fun. Very curious to know what's going to come next with the Mass Effect franchise. I know they're obviously making a Mass Effect. Ooh, we don't even know what the name of it is, because they did 1, 2, 3 and they did Andromeda. And I enjoyed Andromeda, I did. But they are making another Mass Effect game, and that will be great, hopefully. It's obviously been a while between Dragon Age 3 and 4, so I'd rather they did it right than rushed it. But I do love the Mass Effect games, and I'm stunned, genuinely stunned, there's not an official tabletop RPG. I think it's inevitable that it will happen. Honestly, I would be absolutely stunned if Modiphius are not in the early stages of development of a Mass Effect RPG. Considering that Modiphius produced the Mass Effect board game, that is, has it come out now, or is it just about to come out? It looks a lot of fun, and obviously they have been trusted with a great deal of big old franchises. I mean, noticeably recently Discworld. But I think once Discworld is out, I would put money on the fact that Modiphius is going to announce a Mass Effect tabletop RPG. And if you're listening, Modiphius, I would love to work on that. I really would, from a design and writing perspective. That is absolutely up there for me as a franchise. I would love to work on, from a writing design perspective. As if I planned this, I didn't actually. But Hatchlings Games, Rich Hatchlings Games tweeted this today. It was not even tweeted, he posted it on Blue Sky. But if you could, which IP would you want to work on? And Mass Effect is definitely up there for me. especially something that it'll happen at some point. It will 100% happen at some point. And again, I'd be stunned if it weren't Modiphius doing it. FYI, the other ones that I would love to work on, and I have referenced these on previous streams, I would love to write and design for a Golden Axe tabletop RPG and Eternal Champions, two nostalgic Sega franchises that I have a great deal of fondness for. If you're not familiar with them, let's talk a little bit about them. How are we doing for time? We're doing all right. Maybe continue this game and then wrap it up. So Golden Axe is a classic sword and sorcery fantasy franchise. It, has it's got a Conan the Barbarian kind of feel. We'll play one more, I think. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. Very kind of 80s in its designs. But one of the things that makes me particularly fond of Golden Axe is not just the games, but the fact that as a kid I read Sonic the Comic. And Sonic the Comic always had 3 stories in it. It had a Sonic the Hedgehog story, and it had 2 other Sega franchises had a story. And they did 2 different arcs of Golden Axe. And they are an awful lot of fun. And for me, there's a huge amount of nostalgia. I would love to dive into some of the quirks of those worlds. To the degree that this is not the first time I've actually done RPG stuff related to Golden Axe. Years and years and years ago, back in my uni and just sort of post-uni days, I used to write mods for Baldur's Gate 2. I was part of the Baldur's Gate 2 modding community, and I actually wrote a playable NPC of Tiris Flare, one of the characters from Golden Axe, and put her into Baldur's Gate 2. It's still out there somewhere. I think it's maintained by someone else now. But, oh god, if you'd want to read some older Dave writing, I have no promises about the quality of it, but it's out there. So I would love to do something with Golden Axe at some point. Whether it's a tabletop RPG, I think it would make a great CRPG, to be honest. I think you'd have an awful lot of fun, but I don't think you'd get the investment in it. But I would love to do a Golden Axe tabletop RPG, especially I think some of the fun you could have with world building and magic, I think would be a heck of a lot of fun. And Eternal Champions is another one that I'm very fond of. So if you're not aware of Eternal Champions, it's a much smaller franchise than Golden Axe. Eternal Champions was a fighting franchise that was created, I think, sort of as Sega's answer to Mortal Kombat, though it wasn't quite as graphic as Mortal Kombat. But the concept is that at the very end of time in a kind of post-apocalyptic world, the Eternal Champion is like this kind of Zen master who has all the knowledge of the world and the world's martial arts, and he decides that he needs a hero to save the world. So he is going to travel the time stream and select various champions of their time, fighting champions, martial artists, but people of good heart who were sadly killed before their time. So all these characters met a grisly fate and died earlier than perhaps they should have. For example, they were betrayed by someone. There was a character who was burned at the stake for being a warlock. Turns out he was. And in the game, they've got to go through this fighting tournament, and the winner will be the person who is going to be tasked with saving the world. But I think as a tabletop RPG, I think the concept of you're playing characters, not just of different classes and, potentially different kin, different races, different species, but basically everyone in Eternal Champions was human. But the notion of time period being one of the critical things about your character, that is fun. Because, you could have 2 different rogues, but one of them is, a cyberpunk rogue who uses, an invisibility cloaking device to do their things, and one of them is, like an old school gangster, from the 1920s, putting them together, that's fun. So I think you could have a great deal of fun with Eternal Champions tabletop RPG. I really think you could. I'd love to do it officially, but to be honest, the concept is so broad that if I did ever want to do something that scratched that itch, I think it's broad enough that I could probably do it without it being officially Eternal Champions. You know, the notion of warriors from different time, you are a party of people from different time periods. I think you could do that in a number of ways that are, again, scratches that itch without it being a direct copy. You know, you could have, rather than the Eternal Champion pulling them out of time the moments before their death, that they are, you know, clones of them, or people who have been frozen in, you know, cryogenically frozen. And then you've got lots of people who are from different time periods having to get along. You wouldn't have that concept of people who are dragged the second before their death, which I think is a fun one for Eternal Champions in terms of kind of the morality of these characters, when all of them have to accept the fact that this is their second chance. I think that's fun, and it would be a shame to lose that. But you know, the fundamentals you can do through different routes, but I would love to do them officially. I really would. But there we go. So, not something I expected to talk about on this stream, but it did nicely segue into it. Right, I think we will finish off this round of it, which is going okay, he says, not wanting to jinx it, but it is going okay. I think we'll finish off this one, and then we will call it for this stream. But this has been fun. Oh, good grief. Oh, wow. Have I just done something incredible? I may have done something incredible. Yeah, it's a nice, simple, casual game, this Land of Mushrooms. I very much enjoyed it. I think the things that make it a bit different to games of this type is the fact that, I mean, clearly they're based on actual fungus with the designs, and the fact that means sizes vary a lot. You can go from quite small mushrooms into surprisingly large, and then when you do a bit better, they then shrink back down again. That is an interesting mechanic in this, because inevitably with most of these games, as you increase in level of the things you're dropping, that means they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then space becomes an issue. But here, a few times I've gone all the way to the top, and then actually something that's quite large has shrunk down into something smaller, which is cool. We'll see how we're doing. Yeah, I think I'm going to mess this up soon. Which is a shame, because I'm doing pretty well. Again, largest puffball recorded, 8 foot across and 48 pounds. Good golly, that is quite something. Oh, here we go. Are those two going to touch? Nope. No, they're not. Oh, so close. This is where it's going to go wrong. Oh, and I messed up on a tiny one. There we go. 50,928, which puts me on the top of the daily high score, the weekly high score, and the monthly high score. I'll take that as a win. There we go. Right, let's pop that to just chatting on that one. So thank you so much for joining me. Let's do a quick summary of this one. So today I was playing Land of Mushrooms, which is a game about to be released by Sourcebite. It's a nice, casual, cozy game where you're dropping mushrooms of various sizes. You need to combine them so they, two of the same thing becomes the next step of mushroom. The quirks on this one, as I just said, is the fact that just because you're getting more and more advanced mushrooms does not necessarily mean that they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And they're not, because they're not all spherical. It's not, small red ball becomes medium blue ball, becomes giant yellow ball, becomes even greater white ball, or something like that. The sizes vary a lot, they fluctuate, and because they're based on real mushrooms, clearly, the shapes of them are bizarre. So you can, combining two things can cause massive changes in what you're doing. But I had a lot of fun with that. It's not going to be something that I'm going to drop, 100 hours into. But I very much enjoyed that. And if there is not a mobile version of it, I think Sourcebite should definitely make a mobile version of it, because I think it's perfect as a mobile game, but it's really nice to play it on a big screen as well. So yay. As I said earlier, this game was very kindly provided by Sourcebite by a keymailer. Very much appreciative of that. And I think we're going to wrap this up now. So if you have enjoyed this and you don't already follow me, please follow me on Twitch, where I'm DC Bradshaw, and YouTube, where I'm also DC Bradshaw. You'll find all my gaming stuff on Twitch. All my VODs go onto YouTube, as well as original content like Short Thoughts, which is my bite-sized interview show, which I'm currently recording season 2 of. And there will be more announcements about that soon, because there are some really fun guests coming up. This is it for regularly scheduled streams this week. It's possible I might do a gaming stream later on in the week, but given the fact that Dragon Age drops, I think it's unlikely. I think a lot of my evenings this week are going to be toggled between Short Thoughts editing and playing Dragon Age. But otherwise, we'll be back on Monday at 1 PM GMT, where we'll do our regular lunch chat stream, and then Wednesdays at midday for doing lunch chat with games. Alrighty then. I don't think there's anyone about for the raiding today, so I will just wish you all a very enjoyable evening. And if I don't see you before then, have a great weekend, and I will see you next week. Alright, take care. Bye.